All right. If you can put your arms out. Yeah, find creative. We're creative people. Again, we're going to just swivel a little bit. This is the hug your neighbor. High five. High five.
High five, y'all.
Be that part of the temple that you are. And clasp the hand in. And we'll turn it on over.
Yeah, baby.
Before I introduce Caroline, I just want to say, it's such privilege and joy that we get to build this beautiful, beautiful thing. And it also begins with, whose land we're on. We're on Ohlone land. When we build this temple out on the Paiute land, it is on Paiute land. I just want to acknowledge even all the names I haven't spoken, with a lot of gratitude, we get to build this beautiful thing on their home. So just wanted to say thank you to them. With that, over to Caroline.
Thank you. Yay. Thank you, Ajesh. Thank you all for being here. It's so special to see you in this space. We've been in this space for a few days, getting ready and anticipating this moment. So it's really, really touching to actually see you here and to feel your energy and to feel the energy that we're beginning to harness and we're beginning to gift to this temple space. Because ultimately the temple will be the emergent of the energy that we're creating here. And it's starting today. So thank you for being here. It's really something. Thank you. Yeah. So my name is Caroline, aka Glitter Kitty, and I'm the lead artist for this year's temple. The temple, thank you. Thank you. It is called the Temple of Together, and that is not a coincidence. The real intention of this temple is to honor integration, integrating all of the parts of ourselves that we've processed and all the parts that we're still processing, and in doing so, being more able and open and capable of receiving other people's parts and them as a whole. So there's just this real intention as we start this process of being present with each other and being accepting and becoming more and more able to be just fully aware and loving. And I set that as my intention in this process. So my commitment to you is that in this process, I will show up as present, as loving, as open, as spacious as I am physically able. And this entire journey has already begun and has really allowed me as a human to become a person with more capacity for that. And I hope that all of you, just by showing up today, and as you get involved with Temple, will feel that effect on you as well as we set that intention in this space. So thank you for being here. So we're going to walk you through a few slides, and we just prepared a few visuals for you. And the goal is not to be rigid in this conversation. I just wanted to show up prepared as an act of love, and so that there was something that you could see from me as my love letter to anticipating this moment and being so excited to share these elements of the temple with you. So we're going to spend a few minutes talking about the intention of the temple and some of the design details. As you can see, we've printed out, if you haven't had a chance to see all of these renderings and all of these architectural drawings, take a moment while you're here today. They're really special. So the renders that you see in the entrance and that you see here are all made in Lumion, and those are the renders that we selected from when we were submitting the grant proposal. So we printed the entire set. Burning Man only allowed us to submit 5, so we picked 5 of these 50, but all 50 are here, so you can really see the temple in all of its design detail. And we can talk through each element of it. Feel free to come ask questions. Again, it's a rendering, it's an intention and a goal, and we together are gonna co-create how we actually make that manifest on Playa, which is the really exciting part. And then over here, this is so incredible and special. This is the beginning of our structural and architectural renderings. So basically, yeah. March 1, baby, we're doing it. So I want to point out two really amazing, uncanny things about this temple. Number one, the entire temple is subdivisible by 8. So there's just this incredible geometry and numerology underneath the temple. So the entire temple is the same piece 8 times. And this is where it gets really cool. So if you look at that first drawing over here, and you look at the aerial view of the temple, and you split the temple into 8, it becomes a clock, because we have exactly 8 months from when it was announced to execute it. So yeah, it gets really spicy and cool. So we can really get into the nerdiness and excitement of the numerology, but the entire temple is built in 8s. We're going to have 8 town halls. The 8th town hall, which will be on the 24th of the month, will be on Playa the day before the temple opens. So it's going to be a really exciting way, and we're live streaming now. Hi, everybody on social media who couldn't be with us here in person. We love you. You were part of this, and you were here with us. We want as much as possible to include people in this process who are not in the Bay Area, who are with us in spirit and in energy, and also who may not be able to access the Playa at any point in this process. So we just want to honor that we're all in this together, and those of us who are here are basically making that intention manifest in this space on behalf of all the other people who can't be here today. So the first and most important thing is acknowledging how special it is that we're all here. So we are here with this joint intention of creating a sacred space that is open to our entire community. And we're here because 24 years ago, David and his crew, some of whom are here today, started that tradition. So we want to say thank you, and we want to acknowledge that we are a link in that chain. And we're here because those teams made it possible. And I want to particularly acknowledge Ella, who's here. Can you stand up? Ella and her team from Temple of the Heart last year created such an incredible, loving, and welcoming space 2 doors down, and have been so helpful and instrumental in supporting this team getting off the ground as quickly as we've been able to, and not having to learn everything from scratch. And that kind of love and passing on that wisdom is something that we hope to pay forward to the next temple team. But Ella, thank you for setting that standard, and we hope to honor what you created this year as we continue. We honor those who came before us, and we do this in service of those who will come after. And we'll do everything we can as a team to make everything that we're learning here this year as easy as possible to pass on to the next group, just like Temple of the Heart did with us. So there's a sanctity to that, and we just want to acknowledge that, and we want to say thank you. So the second thing is, why Temple? So we're all here for a reason. There's a reason that you drove past all these highway closures, or biked, or walked, or however you got here to come here on a Saturday morning in the rain. We really appreciate that. And we just want to take some time today. We'll do it a little bit now, and then we're really going to spend time doing that at lunch, getting to know each other and understanding why each of you is here. Because I guarantee you, I've found this out already just in the last month, that if you scratch the surface with the person sitting next to you and you ask a few whys, you'll realize that there's some reason that their karmic path is intertwined with yours sitting in this seat here today. And it's really, really special to discover and uncover that. So I encourage all of us to open up that space today and just allow the Playa magic to begin to infuse this area that we're in. So I will share a little bit here. So the questions that we wanted to ask you are to start to think about what brings you here. Why are you here today? And also, what intentions do you wish to set and speak today for your temple process that's beginning now? So I'll maybe give you, just take a moment to think about that for yourself. Why are you here?
Thank you.
And what intention do you want to set for yourself? And then we'll share a few, if that works for you. So it's not lost on us that we are weaving, literally and figuratively, this field that we're gifting to the Playa, and we're doing that at a place called the Loom. It's really incredible. Yeah. And this year in particular, we're considering the way that we're skinning the piece to be a form of weaving. And so I encourage us, all of us who will be working on that part in particular, to think about what intentions you're placing in your hands and you're contributing to that weave, because I promise you it'll be felt on playa, and that's the magic that we're creating here. We're generating a list of donations. If you happen to have something like a sofa to donate to make this space really feel like home for all of us over the next few months, we're gonna have a spreadsheet going. Let's say you have an extra refrigerator lying around, I don't know. Maybe you have a washer dryer, we're gonna need that for textiles. So there's a few household items that would be amazing that we're gonna be setting up here that will make everybody's life so much more yummy. So we'll share that with you before you leave today. The sofas is such a perfect example. Thank you, we now have a lounge space for everybody who's gonna be here. And we encourage you to, if it's lying around and you were planning on donating it, or you want to just lend it to the project until September, we would love that. Thank you. And they're very strange and random asks. So, take a look at the spreadsheet. You might just have that lying around somewhere. Who knows? So we already talked about the fundamental intention of this temple, which is union with yourself, and by extension, the cosmic joke of it all is that when you can do that with yourself, you can actually do that with other people. Can't party with others until you can party with yourself. So same concept goes for spiritual development. I've been learning that one the hard way for many years. It's been very humbling. And I wanted to note, for me, what my why is coming into Temple this year. I talked about this a little bit in the announcement, but I've been through my own grief process and my own journey over the last 4 or 5 years, and this is the first time in my life where I feel ready to integrate some of what I experienced and that pain and that heartbreak, but also the lessons, the clarity about what I care about what is meaningful to me, into every aspect of how I live my life. And so this is a mantra for me and really an intention to integrate all of these parts of myself and to accept them all in the light. And so whatever the temple means for you is so welcome, and I can't wait to hear about all of your intentions. And it just feels very sacred, so thank you. So the temple's central pavilion is the first thing that we designed. So we designed this temple inside out. We did not design this temple outside in, didn't know what it was gonna look like until the end. We did know what it was gonna look like on the inside, and we definitely knew what we wanted the intention and the feeling to be on the inside. And so the very first thing that we designed was the altar and the central chapel. And so in this space, 100 people will be able to comfortably sit. So there'll be a central chamber that you can enter from multiple entrances in the temple. And it will have circular seating that's organized around a central altar. And the goal here is to make it as cozy and comfortable for people to stay a while as possible. There are a few things that we want to do in this space that we want to explore this afternoon. The first is we want to integrate textiles. So we started talking about this over coffee. But how do we want to create a soft, welcoming counterpoint to the temple's design in this central area? How do we want to invite our community to participate by creating things like prayer pillows that could be customized and have specific dedications to people or have specific intentions set? I would like to call out for anybody who has extra clean, please, textiles at home, that please start bringing them to the loom. So if you look in that, I don't know what to call this area, the cage? Can we come up with a more uplifting version of what to call that? In our uplifting cage on the left, you will see 3 trash bags that we will call something else that's uplifting. And those are full of clean, mismatched socks and old sheets and ripped towels and things that people were otherwise going to discard. And these are things that we can use, that we can cut up in pieces and we can use to stuff prayer pillows and to create a really cozy experience for our community without buying anything new or wasting any material. So this is an example of something that we can start to be proactive and thoughtful about now. And it's March 1st, so I have a lot of faith that we'll have a lot of cozy pillows by the time August rolls around and we're going to the playa. And this is also a way that we can invite people who can't be at the loom to participate, because they can make these kinds of contributions from wherever they're at and ship them here or bring them to the playa. So the goal here is that it's a communal space organized around the altar that's cozy, that invites you to stay a while. And we even have an ambition, Sparkle, I'm going to say this out loud because we've already talked about it, of pre-assembling part of or all of the central altar in this space over there in the back, so that those of us who are here can begin to set intentions and set those wishes and create and cultivate the energy of the altar here, so that we're charging it up and sending it to the playa with all of our love. This will also make it more accessible to people who are able to access the loom but are not able to access the playa. And that's a really important thing we want to be super mindful and proactive about around accessibility. So central altar, prayer pillows, cozy, stay a while. We all know what the experience is in that central space. Many of us know what the experience is in that central space. Those of us who don't will know this year, whether it's here or whether it's on playa. But our goal there is to support our community in feeling safe and loved, and like they have the spaciousness to process whatever is coming up. We have these, we're calling them wish rooms, essentially, and there's 4 of them. So if you look at the structure, you can see it in some of these renders. If you look at an aerial view of the temple, or if you look at a cross section, the way that the temple is shaped allows us to have 4 auxiliary spaces for meditation, for communion, for honestly a little more solitary reflection if it's too much to be in the central area. We really loved that Temple of the Heart set that standard of creating spaces that respect people's level of introversion and people's needs. And we want to just continue and carry that forward in our own way this year. So that's what this will look like. So we'll have these 4 auxiliary spaces that will be much smaller, with benches, actually with this like a door, a sliding door that closes for even more privacy, that will be, it will be made out of the same woven pattern. So you'll be able to see through it, but it'll just create a little more of a cozy environment. So if that's something that you're really interested in, because what's really cool about this is we can also set a specific intention for each one of those 4. Maybe each one of those 4 can be anchored to a different life phase, or maybe each one of those 4 can be anchored to a different intention, whether it's health or love or whatever it might be. So there's a few different ways that we as a community can co-create intentionally in these spaces, so that we're giving people a place to gravitate towards if their nervous system doesn't feel ready for the central space. So that's a really exciting thing for us to start. Just allow that to enter your awareness and see what creative ideas come up. But the intention is, let's create something really intentional for people who the central space just isn't doing it for them today. They need a little something, their nervous system needs a little something different. So that's the second one. One more thing to note here, you can see it in the render. We're going to be creating these lanterns, like these wish lanterns. This will be another way for us to participate. And we're going to be making these out of paper mache, and we're going to be making them out of textile. So there's a whole build team that's going to be focused on textile, and there's a whole build team that's going to be focused on paper arts, which is really fun and exciting. So if those are areas that you love and you either have experience in or you want to learn, I mean, learning how to make and press paper is really, really fun, by the way, so come learn if that's of interest. Then this afternoon, let's huddle, because we're building those teams now, and there's so many creative ways we can do this, and then we can share templates out with the community so that people can make them on their own and bring them to the playa. And I can just imagine having thousands of these wish lanterns with people's intentions on them and what kind of impact that's going to have on the space. So those will be hanging inside of these 4 auxiliary spaces. Last but not least, we have the courtyard shrines. So if being in the central area wasn't doing it for your nervous system, and being in the auxiliary spaces was not doing it for your nervous system, we have an outdoor set of areas for people to rest, reflect, and offer, and make offerings as well. So we have 4 of these as well. So you're starting to see how this works. 4s and 8s, yeah. So we've got 4 outdoor shrines that will also have seating. So we're going to have an unprecedented amount of seating in this temple to welcome people to come and stay a while and not feel like they're taking someone else's spot or they're rushed or their process can't arrive to completion. So we want to be really respectful of people's nervous systems and their process. So we will have this beautiful fence. Side note, we're going to have ambient sound at the fence. So the idea is to have very low-grade ambient sound that is a palate cleanser. So it's a palate cleanser coming in to the temple, and it's a reminder to your nervous system that you're dropping into the temple space. You're not on the playa. Whatever's going on the playa, as you all know, can be a very different energy than what's going on in the temple. And then on your way out of the temple, it's also a signal to your nervous system that you're switching back into that playa mode. And so if you are a composer or a musician, or you're interested in sound as part of your gift, then please let's huddle after lunch and talk about sound, because we're just starting to assemble that team. And the goal of a sound is to heal. So it's the idea of creating a sound bath within the perimeter of the temple that doesn't disrupt the central temple experience. It's not going to be something that you can hear when you're in the central structure, but it is something you'd be able to hear if you were in the outdoor shrines, because it'll be right at the fence. And so the goal for the outdoor shrines is you can hang, you can stay a while. We have even more space for offerings. And we're hoping to be able to create and assemble at least one of these here at the Loom, because then we can do things like sit on those when we're having these conversations and actually start to experience the gift that we're giving to the playa, which is really cool. And thanks to Ilya and the team at the Loom, we have enough space here to do that, which is really exciting. So those are the three main types of structure that you'll see in the temple. So before we move on to talk about the skin, which I know Mike Keeler has thoughts about. So Mike was one of the first people to raise his hand actually before we received the temple grant, when we were applying for the temple grant. He's like, I'm going to help bring this together if you get the grant. And I was like, thank you, Mike. I don't think we're going to get the grant, but it's really fun to try. And that's half of life, right? So that was our conversation. Then we got the grant, and he said, Merry Christmas, you got the grant. What are you going to do about the skin? I was like, Mike, can I have 1 to 2 months to figure that out? Okay, Merry Christmas. So lighting is going to be a really important consideration for this temple, because we have LEDs outlining a lot of the main architectural components, and we have this ambient lighting in all of the lanterns and all of the spires. So if lighting is your jam, and I know a few people have already shown up with samples today, so thank you, you're amazing, then let's huddle after lunch and let's start to get a group together that's focused on lighting, because we don't want to be in a situation where it's the summer and we've just started to think about lighting, and oh wait, we should have cut grooves in all the pieces that we made the last 2 months. So we want to be thinking about it now. Making our lives easier is the theme of this whole thing. Make it with flow and make it with love. And prescient project management. Okay, so this is the part where it's so exciting that we're weaving at the loom, and that the way that we're skinning this structure is a form of art that our ancestors have been basically using to express themselves and to create utility for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So there's something really exciting to me personally about the fact that we're aligning ourselves with that legacy and the domesticity and utility of making things with our hands and community, which is exactly what we're doing here and setting an intention. So I wanted to give you a brief history of the specific kind of weave that we chose for the temple, because it's not a coincidence. So those of you who read the announcement may already know this, or who've seen the website, which is, you all basically did that before coming here, so thank you. So you know that the weave has a specific name. So this particular pattern is called Haizaran. So it's KH, but it's pronounced with a guttural H. Pronounce it however you wish. But this is a specific kind of weave that comes from Lebanon in the Middle East. And it's named after a person. It wasn't a random name. So I wanted to share a little piece of history for those of you who also appreciate that history is a way of whispering from one generation to the next. There was a queen who was a slave. She started out as a slave, and she was captive, and she basically became a queen, and her name is Haizaran. And she went on to rule this basically desert kingdom in far before her time when female authority figures were accepted and supported. And she did that because she had a really powerful relationship with her partner. So she and her partner ruled together, and they really broke a number of molds in their society at the time, not only because of the way that she progressed in her social rank in her lifetime, but also what she was able to achieve. And it's a really cool story. But this weave is named after her, so this text that you cannot read says a little more about the story. What I thought was really cool about this is that it's a story about integration, it's a story about community, it's a story about someone breaking the mold, and it's a story about breaking the mold in partnership with others and elevating everybody. And so let that be an inspiration for what we're all doing with each other, welcoming new members of our community, reinforcing the community that we already have, paying tribute to the fact that, to my knowledge, this is the only place in the world where 1,000 people join together who don't even know each other to make something for 6 months, to say a blessing to 75,000 people who they won't meet, to then burn down and start over. I mean, I'm so grateful to be here. We're so lucky. This is incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. And I don't want to lose sight of that, and this pattern is a tribute to that. It's our way of bringing our history into this history and weaving those two things together. It also happens to be a very beautiful arrangement and pattern that works nicely and fulfills our desire for beauty and to honor the temple. So you could perhaps see in these photos some examples of that applied to a chair, jewelry, and everyday objects. So we will share this on our website so you can look at it more clearly. But I wanted to just give you a little sense of the fact that we didn't randomly decide on the pattern. The pattern has a really long history of being about integration and being about breaking barriers and being about the power of community and being about inclusion and being about strength and resilience. And so I encourage you, as you create this pattern, if you choose to think about the fact that you are adding to that history and it's now yours. And there's something really special about that.
People have heard me say many times, we got 170 days till we take our tool belts off and hand this over. So one way to think about it, if you haven't built a temple before, and I see a lot of you who have, so thank you, is IKEA. If we're going to build it here, flat pack it, and put it up in 2.5 weeks on plyo. So building it here, some of it's going to be, I heard a question about hand versus machine. Last year, we CNC'd 900 sheets of plywood, and we built the structural frame out of dimensional lumber. This year, we're kind of flipping that script around to try to be a little bit more sustainable with the skin. We're going to have that be dimensional type lumber that's cut down, and the structural frame will be CNC. We're also going to do some metal cutting here. So we'll have some plasma cutting of the metal for the bracket. So we've got 64 fence poles currently. Every one of those is lit. I think we have 80 minarets. Keep me honest, Mike and Carolyn. I think we have 80 minarets. Every one of those is lit. We have a power budget, which Ken and Maddie, who are here, could speak to a lot better than I could. We have a power budget from the org of, they bring in 250 kilowatts worth of batteries or something like that. Watt hours? Okay, so we have a power budget. So we've got to make the lights work with the power budget for the solar panels.
What are the values for our temple this year?
Yay!
Thank you. Okay.
Put them up on the
There we go.
waiting for this.
Okay, like I said, we're picking up our tool belts today. We're putting them down in 170 days and handing this thing over to Burning Man, right? And the goal is everybody is friends in 170 days.
Yay!
The goal is cool, calm, and collected for our build. KG said it best with, we're building with intent. And as part of that, we have 5 C's of values. I have the analog handout, sorry guys. One of them is check in with each other. So we take responsibility, of our own actions, and we check in with everybody on the build. Another one's going to be, we care, we collaborate, we communicate again. That's a big one of stop and communicate with everybody. We're not just trying to get it done in a hurry. We're trying to get it done with intent. And consecrate, which is, we're building this thing that's a beautiful box, jewel box on the playa. So we want it to be nice, and with heart. Okay. Ajesh again.
Who are some of the other folks who are already on this team?
Yep. So Teji's going to be one of my people walking around helping set that value. Sarah, where's Sarah in here? Sarah. There's Sarah all the way in the back. Sarah is always... Sarah is always working. Stop working, Sarah. So Sarah, Morgan, Whitney, Mike, we're all in here cleaning it up and making this thing possible, borrowing Sean Orlando's chairs. Yes, we asked Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Sean, thank you, Sean. There he is. And helping lead some of the carpentry team stuff. So this is a duocracy. So if you want to take on a role, let us know. And, we can slot you in where you want to be. Quick draw.
Do we all get tickets?
Quick draw gets a ticket. Nobody else gets a ticket. Again, it's a duocracy. One thing that we're really aware of is we get a certain number of tickets from the org. People showing up, participating, that's clearly one of the things we have to focus on when we figure out and what the skill sets are on Playa to build it. That doesn't come till June or July that we figure all that out. So encourage you to show up, make your situation known.
So are you recommending that people participate in the regular ticket sale?
Absolutely, thank you. Yep.
Just to make sure that they're looped in?
Yep. So the steward sale started, there we go. The steward sale started this week for people who are on that list. And then in a couple of weeks, they're going to start the regular ticket sale. So buy a ticket anyway, no matter what. You can, sell it, what have you, if you end up getting one. But make sure you have a ticket. Camp stuff we'll start talking about that in April. Right now, we're trying to just get ahead of the curve on getting this space set up.
One other thing we wanted to touch on that you may have seen in the announcement, and I realize we haven't explicitly talked about, so we just wanted to say a few words about that before we break for lunch, is that part of our care value is around not only caring for ourselves and caring for other people as part of this build, but also caring for our land and caring for our environment to the degree that we're able to as part of this process. So that means making decisions incrementally as we're moving through the space and on a macro level about being more sustainable as a temple. We're going to have an entire team, we have an entire team that's focused on sustainability already. This is one of the areas that we've already kicked off. We're going to be calculating our carbon footprint. We're going to be sharing that after the temple is burned. We'll give ourselves until the fall to, let the dust settle and run all those numbers. But what that means is we're going to be doing things like including the carbon footprint of all the people who are involved in the build and our transportation to Burning Man and the resources that we use as part of the pre-build and as part of the build on Playa. And so one of our values is wherever possible, if each of us individually can make a more sustainable choice, it allows us as a temple collectively to have a more sustainable impact on the Playa. The huge way that we're doing this year is we're sourcing reclaimed materials for everything that's not structural. For structural lumber, we are using fresh lumber so that we can rely on the structural calculations and make sure the temple is safe. That is the most important thing. But all of the decorative carpentry and all of the material that we're going to use to skin the temple is going to be reclaimed material. And if you're interested in sourcing, we can talk more about that this afternoon. And you can also ask Sparkle and Mike, who've already begun to assemble reclaimed lumber for our use. So that is one of the biggest sources of our footprint in prior years, that transportation. So think about the three big levers are the materials, transportation. Unfortunately, we're not at a place where we can use e-fuels to transport our flatbeds to the Playa. We hope that in 2 to 3 years we will be. So that lever we're just gonna have to offset in the best way that we can. But it's power, transportation, and materials. So we're making a big difference in terms of materials and sourcing reclaimed materials and minimizing the use of new materials. And In terms of power, we're going to be using solar power again. So we're making a massive difference in terms of our carbon footprint there. So if you have other ways that you would like, that you think of, that you would like for us to increase our attentiveness to the environment, let's talk about it. This is part of what we're going to have a whole team thinking about that and being proactive about that. That's already begun, and it's an intention that we all want to carry. So we're also, as a camp and in general, going to do our best to avoid using single-use products. I know that today we have a few cups and things like that for the first day, but we're just really going to try to set that intention as much as possible to use things that are compostable, things that are a little more eco-friendly, things that don't have harsh chemicals, not feeding our team things that put pesticides and, and chemical fertilizers back into the earth and into our water sources. So just thinking about all of that as part of our commitment to being more sustainable. It's all part of it.
I think I got a little grief about talking about the skin.
Love.
Okay, it's love. We've been able, the key thing about the skin, we're trying to figure out ways to do it. If you look over there, we're looking at bamboo strips to think that could work. It's not going to work, so what we've ended up doing is finding a source in Santa Rosa that's using trees that were killed in the wildfires. So we're able to take those down, we're cutting them into lath strips, and we may or may not be able to weave them, but we'll be able to layer them to have the appearance of that weave. So that's our first step that we're doing. We've already made progress on that. So when we're talking about other things that we need, you can just imagine an operation this size, we need lots of things. And we have a 501c3, what we call a fiscal sponsor, that things get donated through them and they get the tax write-off or the benefit back to them. So all these things are set up that way. I also want to make a personal request as we're breaking out. As an introvert and as someone who came to a group like this by myself, it was great when people saw me and invited me into conversations. So I would like to ask everybody to do that. If you see somebody that you don't know that's sitting around, bring them in, ask them what brought them to the temple, get to know them a little bit, because we're building a community more than just building a structure.
If you've built temple before, either at the loom or on the ply, can you raise your hands? All right. If you haven't been a part of this, just see all the hands around and keep them up. Okay, now you guys can put your hands down. Okay, the responsibility and the invitation I share with y'all is, hey, you know how a temple gets built, you know how we do temple culture, you also know how it felt when somebody invited you in to participate. Whether it was like, hey, I've never used a power tool before, can I still participate? You know the answer, you know how to actually facilitate. Or if they're like, I don't know where to help, again, this is part of us doing the community. And this is our responsibility of like, hey, like how do we keep temple culture going? Yes, and, okay, who are all the new people who have never done temple before? Raise your hands. All right, these people, thank you. I will say what they bring and what all the new people are bringing is amazing newness in how to think, how to be more heart-centered. So welcome them in. You'll be surprised at how your life can shift with them. So let's do this together.
Sparkle, come back up.
Sparkle, KG,
Sarah, people.
Morgan, Brittany. All right, so this is, you want to say? This is our team right now, but we're growing. And that means we really want all of y'all to come help, which is where I and Mike will help you find a spot of how to participate. Jen, who's not here, who's like, she's really, really key in helping us all come together and bringing us together too. She couldn't be here. So come find us. We will help you find your home here.
Nonstop. Come on. Ryan. And
Gravity.
Gravity.
Already this is like...
Yeah. So these are guys that, Gravity is on the kitchen, Ryan's on the tool truck. Nonstop Simon does the most important job on Playa. He's in charge of L&T. People think it's like an onerous task. If you get out there and if you can stay till the end and help clean up, it's one of the most amazing things that you can do. That I mean, everybody here can talk about their experiences on LNT, but Simon leads it, and we're so grateful for that.
Thank you for joining.